Hello everyone. I want to welcome you back to SIG University, where we certify sourcing leaders. Today we're focusing on Sourcing Pro, which is a multifamily housing unit association. So all of our examples will be focused on multifamily housing. We're going to talk about total cost of ownership and how do we get there. Well, first we have to assess the environment before we build our cost model. That means our internal assessment, which are all of the costs and all the things we do internally in our organization, as well as the external analysis, which is the external environment, things that impact us from the outside that also can add costs to our total cost of ownership. Then we create our cost model, and from that, we then can create our sourcing strategy for which we go out to source materials or services. Assessing the environment, it's very important that we have a top-down approach to assessing the environment. We know at the very top of an organization, executives will set the priorities for the company. It could be simply improving profitability, but that translates differently to each of the business units and ultimately to the end users of our products and services. So it's very important that we have that line of sight from the top of the corporation so we know what the goals are, to how it translates to the individual business units to which we are serving, and then how that translates to the commodities and services that we're sourcing. So we will drive that change from the bottom up, but we want to make sure we're delivering from the top down. So one of the things we're going to do is gather the requirements. Now this is very important. This is to talk about what is the product or service used for? What is it accomplished within the organization? Is it used in multiple places within the organization? Is it something that we're struggling with, perhaps a service level or a quality issue? And so we want to gather all the requirements. Now I'm going to give you an example where this went wrong. So for example, in this case study, the head of marketing said that we require a fast gray Mustang. Well, sourcing went out and looked for a fast gray Mustang, but they didn't do a good job asking what the requirements were, when actually marketing was looking for a car and they went out and sourced a gray Mustang. This is the reason that requirements gathering is very, very important. We hear one thing and our own personal interpretation may not be the same as from what the person is actually trying to achieve. So it's really important that we know what the product's going to be used for. And another really great personal example I had, I was sourcing a category, they called it fondly rope, soap, and dope, up in the Alaska pipeline. And the pipeline goes on, and there are 16 pump stations in between. And we were sourcing things like Windex window cleaner and hand solvents and things like this. Now this is after the Porter Valdez oil spill. And so unbeknownst to us, we're looking and we see Windex. Well, of course, that's a brand name. So of course we replace it with a generic brand and save a lot of money. But had we been actually asking the right question, we would have realized, one, there aren't many windows in the pump stations, but they order a lot of Windex. It wasn't being used to wash windows. It was being used as a floor shine, because what they realized after the Porter Valdez oil spill and the fact that every drop of oil was going to have to be accounted to the government, a drop of oil will pile up or make a puddle really quickly on Windex and can be wiped away with no residue left behind. So we were buying a generic Windex product for windows, for which they were actually using a real Windex on the floors, and our generic product would not have served the purpose. So I know that sounds like a funny example, but this is when you assume that Windex is for cleaning windows, as I did. We were incorrect, and we were correctly stated that we had to use the name brand, or we had to have this certain ingredient that actually will pile up and help them pick up an oil spill. So just an example of why requirements gathering and having lengthy conversations with your stakeholders is really important. So with that, we're going to wrap up today's lesson, and I hope you join me again really soon for our next one. Thanks.